This night will change everything. Say that to yourself once, quietly. This night will change everything, not as a slogan or promise, but as an invitation. Something in the field around you is pressing for clarity, and tonight, within a narrowing window, there is an opening. For some, it will feel like a subtle tilt. For others, a sudden fracture in what felt familiar. Pay attention. This is the hinge moment the title names, a rare hour that may alter the immediate trajectory of your life if you meet it with honesty. There is a reason I say this night and not sometime soon. For the next 72 hours, the atmosphere around you is under a distinctive pressure. Think of it as a clarifying light hitting a dusty room. The moon is at apogee, a symbolic height that creates distance and perspective, and it moves through Scorpio's influence, which is less about drama and more about precision, depth, and removing what is no longer true. Together, these patterns form a narrow, clarifying window, a pressure for truth, a call to bravery, a request for quiet receptivity. This is not prophecy as decree, it is an offering from the field, a chance to realign, to let something be born, but only if you notice, and only if you answer. You may already be feeling one or more of 3 clear signs that you are being prepared for a major shift. They are simple, ordinary, easily missed, yet they are precise. They are the language of preparation. Learn them, watch for them tonight, and consider what small, honest action you will take in response. Before I list them, pause for a moment. Close your eyes if you can and breathe. Ask very simply, did any of the following touch me today? A mood I couldn't explain, a thought that won't leave, a sudden craving for being alone. If one of these landed in you, sit with that recognition. If you're watching this later, write a single word in the comments now, the one sign that felt familiar. This is just a quiet practice. Name it and see it. Sign 1 often arrives first and stealthily. A sudden, unexplainable shift in mood or energy, a tilt inside you that the mind can't neatly account for. It might be lightness, suddenly bright without reason. It might be heaviness, a quiet gravity over your chest that seems to ask for attention. Your body often leads. The mind is catching up after the fact. You may find yourself restless in your seat or unexpectedly tearful while a harmless commercial plays. You may wake before dawn with a deep, unnameable knowing that something is changing. Imagine 3 small scenes. A young teacher on her way home feels a wave of tiredness that's not physical. It sits in her throat and tells her she can't keep performing the same way. A father doing the dishes feels his hands tremble for a moment, then steadies. Afterward he realizes he's been living according to someone else's timetable, and the tremor was a nudge toward a different rhythm. A mid-career artist, scrolling through messages, suddenly closes the phone because the noise feels like sand in an open wound. The silence is a strange relief that points to a need for a new direction. When this shift appears, read it as an early alignment. It is not a verdict, it is data. Your nervous system is adjusting before your story has a chance to explain it. The micro-action here is small and immediate. Slow down long enough to name the sensation. Say it out loud or in a journal. Don't immediately try to fix or interpret it. Practice the simple act of recognition. I feel a tilt, or I feel a quiet heaviness, or there is an unexpected lightness. The naming anchors nervous energy and opens space for the next instruction from within. After you name it, ask a short, reflective question. Where in my life do I already feel this truth? Where have I been performing instead of being? Let the question hang. For many, simply noticing the bodily signal changes the field. You are being prepared. Your body felt it first. Sign 2, a persistent recurrence of a specific thought, memory, person, or question that keeps returning like a small drum. It is not random mind chatter, but a focused attention magnet. You might catch yourself replaying a scene, imagining a conversation, or being pulled toward a single name. The recurrence is not always pleasant. Often it is a wound or an unfinished exchange. but it marks the location of the change, the doorway through which the shift will pass. Picture 3 short vignettes. A woman repeatedly remembers a conversation with her grandmother, the exact phrase her grandmother used to say at the end of each letter. The repetition spurs her to examine family patterns and reclaim something lost. A young man finds the same street appearing in his dreams for nights in a row. Upon visiting it, he discovers a doorway that had been closed in his life for years. An entrepreneur keeps returning to a failed project and realizes the failure planted a seed of insight she had refused to harvest. The failure was not the end, but a map. When this recurring thought appears, treat it like an arrow pointing to a door. It is targeting you. Ask, what does this want from me? Is it attention, repair, courage to act, an apology, an acknowledgement? The micro-action. Write the specific thought down exactly as it comes. Don't sanitize it. Then beneath it, write a single question. What does this memory or thought want me to do? That question invites not forced action, but curiosity. Often, the mere act of asking reforms the nervous system from reactivity to receptivity. Sign 3 is a turning inward, a sudden or gradual desire for solitude, detachment, or quiet clearing. This is not the same as loneliness. Solitude in this context is a receptive chamber where the new form can be shaped. You may find social situations feel louder, obligations feel more draining, and small talk suddenly tasteless. You may decline invitations not from avoidance, but because there is something inside asking for space to be tended. 3 miniature examples will make this clear. A nurse who has for years been the emotional center for her family asks for one evening alone and uses it to reorder her calendar around sleep and small rituals, finding a clarity that had been muffled. A musician cancels a gig not out of fear, but because the rehearsal had become an echo chamber of other people's expectations. The night alone becomes an hour of composition that changes his sound. A retiree gently disengages from a local club where the dynamics have begun to feel extractive, and in the silence remembers a poem she once loved, which reignites a small creative life. When solitude calls, honor it as preparation rather than punishment. The micro-action is simple. Carve out 10 to 20 minutes tonight with no screens, no lists, no playlists, just a pen and a blank page, or a quiet walk without earbuds. Let the space receive whatever arises. Label the experience after. I allowed quiet, or I received one small insight. Solitude isn't avoidance, it's alignment. Between each sign, you might sense an intensifying quality, a demand for intentionality rather than wishful thinking. This is where Scorpio's archetypal energy becomes useful as a metaphor. Scorpio is often described in symbolic language as the force that strips away pretense. It doesn't thrive on spectacle. It demands truth, precision, and courage. In this frame, the moon's apogee offers perspective, a slight distance that allows truth to appear with less distortion. Together they ask, can you tell the truth about what matters to you? Can you be brave enough to let go of what no longer serves? Scorpio's influence is not about dramatic upheaval for its own sake. It rewards honest cuts, the small brave decisions that reconfigure life's architecture. These might look like leaving a partnership that no longer reflects who you are, or saying a sentence that had been hard to utter, or slowing down your calendar to protect your inner life. Remember, this is symbolic language for inner processes. Think of Scorpio as an archetypal force that supports depth and the removal of the superficial. Think of apogee as a moment of temporary clarity. Neither forces you. Both offer opportunity. You will also encounter tests. The field rarely delivers clarity in a vacuum. Instead, the spiritual preparation often shows up as ordinary, inconvenient challenges designed to reveal whether inner clarity has become lived behavior. Tests are not punishment. They are feedback loops. They appear as small interpersonal moments, delays or temptations that ask you to respond in a way consistent with whatever interior alignment you think you possess. Consider a handful of short stories about how tests arrive. A woman who has decided to speak honestly about her needs receives a late message from an old friend asking for the same emotional labor she promised she would step away from. The test is to see whether she will revert to the old pattern or hold the boundary she designed for herself. A man who is trying to simplify his life finds that a new money opportunity arrives that would pull him back into the complexity he'd renounced. The test is to choose continuity rather than convenience. A parent committed to calmer mornings is confronted with a school emergency that threatens to detonate their patience. The test measures whether they will meet stress with their new calm or with old reactive habits. When you recognize a test, pause, breathe. Ask, does this response align with the truth I named earlier? If the answer is no, notice the relief you feel in realigning. If the answer is yes, let that be a quiet confirmation. Tests don't have to be dramatic. Most are small and mundane because that is where real character is built. There are practical ways to make the most of this night without forcing anything. One of the most potent and least gimmicky practices is choosing the final thought before sleep. The subconscious is more receptive at that threshold than at almost any other time. The last thing you think as you fall asleep acts like a seed. Over the coming night, the nervous system replays and rehearses the image or phrase. Tonight, given the clarifying window, that seed carries an appetitive edge. This is not magic. It's a way of working with attention and intention. Keep the final thought authentic. Don't manufacture positivity. If you're angry or grieving, your true final thought may be a short sentence of acceptance or a realistic hope. Here are examples of authentic final sentences that are not scripts but models. I will speak one honest sentence tomorrow. I am open to one small change. I accept this grief and will let it soften me. I am ready to step toward what's true. Choose something that resonates with your chest, not your social media persona. A few examples of how people have used this threshold without ritualistic fervor. A teacher wrote before bed, I will finish what I start tomorrow. Within a week, she noticed a new rhythm in her projects. A caregiver kept a single sentence, I will rest a little more. The practical change was small, 40 minutes of consistent sleep, and it rearranged her relationship to obligation. A young person used the thought, I will ask one serious question, and found it dramatically simplified a stalled relationship. These are not guarantees. They are experiments in attention that often produce practical ripple effects. If you want a simple micro-practice tonight, pick one sentence, short, honest, believable, and repeat it just once or twice with attention as you lie down. Then let go. You are not doing a spell. You are placing a marker. Across cultures, there are motifs of nights that break open the ordinary and allow transformation. In many traditions, there is a recognition that threshold times, nights of vigil, nights of initiation, times of solitude, bring disproportionate clarity. Indigenous rites, monastic vigils, and rites of passage all appreciate the potency of time spent awake at the cusp of day. This is not proof of destiny. It is evidence that focused attention during liminal hours has long been used by people to invite change. Tonight, you are participating in a human pattern, the willingness to be awake and to meet what arises with a clear heart. Now return to the 3 signs and consider them together. If you noticed one, that is significant. If you noticed 2, you are being strongly prepared. If you noticed all 3, the field is aligning in a way that asks a deliberate, brave move. But whatever combination you experience, the next step is the same. Choose one tiny, authentic action that demonstrates your willingness to meet the shift. Let me give examples of small moves that qualify as bravery without being performative. A graphic designer, sensing the tilt and the recurrence of a client's voice, chose to send a single clarifying email that reset expectations rather than ghosting. A healthcare worker who felt the desire for solitude declined one social engagement that would have depleted her and used the evening to refill. A college student who kept remembering an unfinished conversation drafted a message that acknowledged a mistake and asked a question, not to fix, but to know. Each action was small, precise, and honest. Each signaled alignment and shifted the field. Choose your seed sentence now. Make it one line. Keep it true. If you prefer, write it down. Then set a single next step you can do tomorrow. A 5-minute conversation, an email, a 10-minute walk alone, a boundary you state calmly. The step must be visible enough that if you take it, you will know you are following through. That visibility matters. Courage is not always grand. It is often a small, visible act that proves to both you and the world that you mean to move differently. As you prepare for tonight, remember these guardrails. This moment does not guarantee a miracle. The energies at play are not deterministic forces that force a result. They are opportunities, alignments in which the field favors clarity and decisive acts of truth. Do not abandon responsibilities or medical advice for a spiritual moment. Use this window to inform choices, not as an excuse for negligence. There is also compassion for those who feel nothing unusual. Not everyone will notice a sign. That doesn't mean nothing is possible for you. People enter openings at different times. The spirit of this message is not to induce worry, but to cultivate readiness. If nothing felt notable today, that is fine. You can still use the idea of a single honest seed before sleep and a small action tomorrow. Preparation often begins with a small experiment. Before we close, a few practical prompts you can use as gentle tools tonight. These are optional and simple. One is a brief journaling grid, 3 lines only. Line 1, name the sign you noticed, or write none and be honest. Line 2, write the single sentence you will carry into sleep. Line 3, write the small next step you will take tomorrow. Keep it to 1 sentence each. The second tool is a breathing anchor. Inhale for 4 counts, hold 2, exhale for 6, repeat 5 times to steady the system before sleep. The last is a short reflection question if you wake in the night. What felt most true about me when I last felt honest? We must return briefly to tests because they will be the proving ground of tonight's preparation. Tests will appear as interruptions, a call when you are practicing calm, a temptation to old habits, a petty provocation that used to set you off. One ordinary test might be a traffic delay that triggers irritation. The new response is not to never be annoyed, but to notice the choice at the moment and choose less reactivity. Another common test is an unexpected request for your time. Can you say no without explaining or over-apologizing? A third test is an internal one, the temptation to tell yourself a story that keeps you small. Recognize the test. Choose differently. If you want an anecdote of how a test can reveal readiness, a friend once told me she had resolved to leave a job that no longer served her. The day she composed her resignation in her head, a long-term client called with a crisis and asked for immediate help. Old habits would have had her drop everything. She paused, felt the weight in her chest, and for the first time said, "I can't take that on right now, but I can help you find someone." The client found a solution. She preserved her boundary. That tiny refusal was her proof of readiness, not glamorous, but decisive. Now, a short safety note. If any sign triggers deep distress, prolonged disorientation, or thoughts of harming yourself, Seek immediate support from qualified professionals. Spiritual preparation is not a substitute for mental health care. If anything in this message amplifies anxiety, reach out to someone you trust or professional help. Courage includes asking for help when you need it. As we move toward the climax of this night's invitation, I want you to feel the power of a single, honest sentence. It is enough. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it as precise as a key that fits a lock. For example, tomorrow I will speak what I have been avoiding. Or, tonight I release what drains me. Or, I will rest and keep my yeses scarce. Or, I accept the truth I've been avoiding. Choose one that feels like a true marker for you. Hold that sentence gently now. Picture a pen in your hand and the blank page before you. Tonight gives you the pen to write one small line. You are not writing your destiny in ink that will never fade. You are making a footprint that the next day can follow. This is agency, not fate. Finally, a closing invitation. If any part of this message touched you, if you recognized one of the 3 signs, or if you chose a seed sentence tonight, consider sharing one small word below this video. Name the sign you felt, or simply write the word you carried into sleep. This is not about performance, it's a quiet act of community. If you want to continue receiving guidance like this, subscribe and be part of a steady practice of attention and courage. We gather not because we need miracles guaranteed, but because we benefit from shared witness and steady habit. Tonight may change the way you see what is next. It may rearrange a small corner of your life, or it may begin a slow unraveling that takes months. The magnitude matters less than the fidelity of your response. Do one honest thing. Take one visible step. Name one sentence before sleep. Meet the tests with a choice that reflects the inner truth you have acknowledged. Go into the night as someone who intends to be honest, more often than not. Be brave in small things. Remember that your body knows faster than your story can explain. Let that truth guide you. This night will change everything for those who meet it. Meet it with a calm heart and a clear sentence, and let your next day be the proof.